Hello and welcome, friends. I would like to welcome all of you to this another segment of Usanas Dialogues. We are organizing a webinar today on a very critical issue of climate change and carbon neutrality in collaboration with the Consortium of Indo-Pacific Researchers. And we are joined by some of the best experts on the subject from across the globe. I'm just going to briefly introduce them and then set the background for today's discussion and then invite the eminent speakers to share their thoughts. So today we have with us Dr. Mao. He's a scientist, director of the BSI. He is the advisor to the government of India in the plant resources of the country and a member of National Biodiversity Authority. He has published extensively and has around 7 books and 145 journal articles. His books include Flora of Zuko Valley, Rhododendrons of Northeast India, Flora of Nagaland, Orchids of Manipur. At the moment, he and his team are working on a book, Flora of Nagaland. Dr. Mao was a recipient of Indian Overseas Scholarship, where he pursued his PhD. And then we have Mr. Erik Grigoryan. He's a dear friend and a special envoy of Armenia for Debt for Climate Negotiations and the founder and CEO of the Environment Group. Previously, he was the Minister of Environment for the Republic of Armenia and the chair of Interstate Ecological Council of CIS, National Designated Authority of Green Climate Fund, Adaptation Fund, political and operational focal point of the Global Environmental Facility and Climate Convention in Armenia. Mr. Grigoryan has over 20 years of diversified experience in the Armenian government and international organizations. We are also joined by Dr. Santonu Goswami, who is the member of the Center for Climate Change and Sustainability at Azim Premji University, Bangalore, and he is currently devoted to strengthening India's response to climate crisis through data and models. Before joining Azim Premji University, Dr. Goswami spent 5.5 years as a senior scientist at NRSC ISRO, focusing on studying key ecosystems in the Indian coastal, riverine, and Himalayan mountain ecosystems using data modeling of various time series, geospatial, and climate data sets using open source analytics and tools. This work was carried out through a series of projects and collaborations with a network of collaborators across India. Thank you. So yes, today we are discussing a very critical issue of climate change. And climate change has already adversely impacted our lives, resulting in oceanic acidification, floods, droughts, heat waves, extreme weather conditions. And in our personal life, we all feel like what climate change is. It's not something which is confined just to the environmentalists or botanists or the policymakers. Today, it's impacting the common person's life. So definitely, it's very crucial to discuss this issue of climate change. Idea behind, the target which has been set by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is to reduce the global warming by 1.5 degrees temperature to the pre-industrial levels and carbon neutrality by 2050. But now the question is that on this particular target, which has already been signed in the Paris Agreement by 195 countries, there are several critical debates and issues regarding the individual contributions of different countries and also the feasibility of achieving this target, and also the issues of common but differentiated responsibilities by some of the developing countries like India. So we are going to discuss all these critical issues today. And first, I would like to invite Dr. Mao to share his thoughts. Can you hear me, Dr. Mao? You're on mute. Dr. Mao, you're on mute, I think.
He's not on mute. I think there is some audio issue.
We can't hear you, Doctor. You're not audible, Dr. Mao.
We can ask him to rejoin, just to exit with this
Can
the
you
meeting
rejoin?
and then rejoin. Until then, we can go ahead with the next speaker, please.
I guess we can start with the next speaker. I would like to invite Mr. Erik Grigoryan to share his thoughts. I'll request you to share the global perspective, particularly the European perspective. The new European climate law has come and you have dealt with these issues very closely, and the European carbon offsets program and all that. So please share your thoughts.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here. Can you hear me clearly? Everything is okay?
Can you be a little louder, because there's some...
okay.
Can you come closer to the mic?
It's okay. So since we are already discussing a climate issue, we have some primary information what's going on, so I don't think that it's necessary to go too deep and to discuss how it started, how the process went, and the Paris Agreement and commitment that was taken. But generally, I can just come with my opinion that the targets that were set by Copenhagen Accord and then the Paris Agreement and NDC, it's failed. So generally, this $100 billion annually that was initially proposed to be spent by developed countries to support developing countries to implement their NDCs, it's failed because these financial resources were not allocated to developing countries. That's why we have the situation, especially in developing countries, especially after COVID, that they are facing multiply issues and could not meet the criteria for implementing NDCs. So since I'm not familiar with the participants, so uh, every time you can just stop me and ask if anything is needed, because I don't know the level of deepness of climate issues that we are discussing now. But I would like to stop on the very specific issues related to the global debt architecture and climate adaptation measures that need to be taken by developing countries. So from one side, we have countries, especially in developing world, they need financial resources immediately to start the climate adaptation projects to adapt their economies, the particular sectors, urban development, water management, forest management, health, or whatever is there. But from other side, developing countries spending a lot of financial resources to serve their debt. But every year that we are postponing implementation of climate adaptation projects, actually we are making the problem is bigger and bigger and much more expensive. So the topic that I wanted to concentrate a little bit more is that for climate swap, the initiative that was 5 years ago presented by my country to General Assembly as an innovative climate finance tool to support developing countries to find financial resources to implement on the climate adaptation projects immediately. The idea behind of that for climate swap a little bit different than that for nature swap. Probably some of you are familiar with one of topics that was implemented starting from 80s, that countries were facing a problem with serving of debt. During the restructuring, some part of our financial resources were spending on environment issues. But what we are proposing, and we are advocating this issue globally, and personally, I'm involved in the Sri Lankan case that the government is facing a problem with that, uh, to swap some of the foreign debt, particularly bilateral debt of Annex 1 countries, and to spend these financial resources internally for the climate adaptation projects to solve not only climate related issues, not only environment related issues, but also to create some socio-economic impact by hiring much more labor to implement these projects. Particularly, I can explain one scheme with reforestation or afforestation. So you know that these efforts will help both with mitigation and adaptation, and it will need a lot of a workforce to implement a large reforestation and afforestation globally. But developing countries, they don't have enough financial resources to invest on this kind of activities. So idea that we are proposing, and it's something that personally me and my company, and before being in a cabinet, we were working not only in Armenia, but also in Kyrgyzstan, Sri Lanka, Pacific Seeds, also advocating MDBs like World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and EBRD. The idea that developed countries that have an obligation to support developing countries with implementation of NDCs will not get some part of foreign debt, but the countries, developing countries, debitor countries, will spend this money internally in their country for particular projects that is in line with the country's NDC. It could be forest reforestation or afforestation. It could be water-related projects. It may be a solar projects, whatever. But the projects that will help countries to meet their NDC criteria. So this is quite complicated and comprehensive projects with a lot of negotiations with creditors, with IFIs, with the governments, involving different institutions from governments. But this is something that I believe will help developing countries to access financial resources immediately. And it's not additional loans and the credits, but it's an additional some kind of grant money that will help countries to do climate adaptation and mitigation projects. Coming back to perspectives of the carbon neutrality, you know that European Union signed this Green Deal that with this target to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to 55%, and they are very active. I mean, European Union, the carbon price is growing, so now it's 80 to 100 euros per ton. That is much, much more expensive than across the globe. But I would like just to talk a little bit about this CBAM mechanism. This is another mechanism that participants from other countries may be important to understand about. This is CBAM, is Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. So idea to reduce greenhouse gas emission internally in Europe, also creating an atmosphere that they need to also reduce the emission outside of European Union. That's why if you are an aluminium plant outside of Europe and you are exporting something to Europe, you will need to pay some additional custom duties with the prices of internal European Union ETC system. So this is very important, especially for the countries who have, the exports to European Union, and they need to be aware about this carbon accounting and also the payments that is coming. So those are the just 1-2 tools that the European Union trying to not only to reduce internally the carbon emissions in Europe, but also using some kind of financial tools try to reduce it in outside of European Union. So again, it's a little bit, the problematic for me to talk generally about the climate agenda because it's too big also in the European Union. But I will stop here, but we'll be open to some kind of discussion and questions because it will be easier for me to answer the questions rather to talk about, the climate agenda in Europe within 5-10 minutes. Thank you very much, and open for any kind of question that you will have.
Thank you very much, Erik. Thank you for your brilliant exposition of what your company has proposed and what you did while you served in the government regarding the idea of developed countries supporting the developing countries to particularly achieve the targets of carbon neutrality. I'll come back to you with my questions of European Green Deal and also how can the developed countries invest in low carbon and renewable technologies to assist the developing countries? But before that, I would like to invite Dr. Goswami. I would like to invite you to share your thoughts on the subject.
Sure. I just wanted to share a few things as a climate scientist, and I'm trying to see if I can share a few slides that I have in here.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Do you want us to run the slides?
Let me see if I can do it from my side. So can you see the slides?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
All right. So my, as a climate scientist, my take on it is going to be more of a, from climate scenario and then as an academic, how I see that we should look forward, right? So my background is not in finance and all. Okay, just let me go to this one, right? So this is a common scenario, common picture that we see all the time, right? Basically, the temperature breaking records every single year for the last few years, and it's well established by now that our human contribution is making this temperature go, like this off the chart. Even though we have a climate change over time, this time it is really shooting off. And combined to that, increasing pollution, biodiversity loss is putting us into a situation that we call the triple planetary crisis, which is actually leading up to all these extreme events. And the IPCC report that is recently that came out, it says that. Hello? I can continue?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So about 1.1 degrees Celsius temperature increase since the last industrial era. This is where we are, and with the anticipated 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature increase projected between 2030 and 2025. I mean, you can think about where we are going to be heading, and that leads us to this urgency of limiting this global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And again, how this can be achieved through cutting down a lot of our emissions from the energy sector and coming back to renewable energy, going off from our fossil fuel scenarios. And of course, you have the global coalition. And India, that's what I wanted to highlight, that India has a carbon neutrality target by 2070. I'll show you in a minute why I'm pointing this. And of course, we do need this part transition to carbon neutrality through energy efficiency, carbon pricing, etc., nature-based solution, and a lot of technological, economic, political, and social changes. India faces a unique challenge because of its rapid economic development and how to balance it with the overall challenges from climate change and ecological, balance. And also, how basically when we do this, how we think about having equity and development in the same place. Now, this is what I wanted to actually highlight from our School of Climate Change and Sustainability. So we have been working on a report, climate forecast report, at the district level for all the districts in India in the near future, 2021 to 2030, using two emission scenarios. One is the mid-emission scenario, and the next one is the high emission scenario. And we are using CMIP6 model projections using 13 climate model, creating ensemble averages, which is bias corrected for India. So what we see that the India as a country, if we think about that temperature increase, India is going to reach 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature increase by 2046. I'm talking about annual maximum temperature increase. If we are thinking about the high emission scenario, and if we are thinking about the middle emission scenario, the country is going to reach this temperature increase by 2058. Now, if we think about the summer maximum temperature, India is going to be reaching this around 2040 for both the emission scenario. Now, remember, this is one single point for India, but if we want to see this on a map, how this is going to change, you can see there are several regions in India. For example, the Himalayan regions, western regions, it's going to see much higher temperature increase than 1.5 degrees Celsius. And many districts in India, for example, about 150 districts, it's going to see a 1 degree Celsius or more, or 67 districts are going to see. But basically, a lot of districts are going to see it, a rapid change in the maximum temperature change. And what there is a strong correlation between temperature increase with the precipitation pattern. And what we see that there will be a strong shift of monsoon in India from the east to the west. That is, the normally wetter regions are going to see less rainfall, and the drier regions are going to see significant amount of precipitation change. And so these are, then we have to think about how we are actually going to adapt to these scenarios. And then you also think about something that we calculate for thermal comfort. We combine the relative humidity and the temperature for the forecasted period, and we call it the wet bulb temperature. When you have about 30, 31, this is near death experience for people. And we see a lot of coastal districts and some districts in the northeast India are going to see very bad thermal or temperature conditions in the summertime and also annually as well. Then if you think about that, about half of the Indian workers are employed outdoor, then we have to think about how do we build adaptation or resilience towards this scenario, right? And on a global stage, the question is, are we on track? Well, obviously we are not on track. So basically, with the current climate action plans with about 54 countries, it's why we need to reduce 45% CO2. It's actually going to increase by 9%. Then the question is, what is the path forward? Of course, increase collaboration and innovation, and to make sure that it's everybody's responsibility. But from an academic standpoint, what I ask is, are we actually ready enough? I'm talking about especially in India or in this region. Do we have enough well-trained manpower to help this transition? And from our school, we believe this is a gap that needs to be addressed. And we are just coming up with a new program from next year on a 1-year MSc degree in climate change and sustainability, which is going to be a skill building program. And we are mostly aiming engineers or young professionals to help this transition. Having said that, that's I think I'll stop in here. Again, my angle on it is as an academic or as a climate scientist. I'm happy to be actually taking part in this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Goswami. So my question to you, Mr. Erik, can you tell us a little more about the European Green Deal and the new climate law? Can you hear me, Erik?
Yes, I can hear you. Everything is clear. So generally, the target is to reduce the greenhouse gas emission to 55% till 2030. Mm-hmm. And how it's working, I mean, it's going through the states, and then it's like grandfathering to sectors, and then going to the specific factories. And again, for example, you are a cement factory operating in some EU member states, then you have this obligation as a cap to reduce your emission and to fulfill the obligations. But again, it will need a lot of investment. Otherwise, you will need to buy the carbon credits according to emission trading system that is working in European Union. As this supply is limited, the price of carbon is going up and up. So it's 80 to 100 euro, although globally it may be 55 to 50 euros. So in European Union is much more expensive. But to make possible to invest in the developing countries, also for the projects in climate adaptation and mitigation, Article 6 of Paris Agreement proposed to have so-called ITMOs. It's internationally transferred mitigation outcomes. So when developed countries can implement projects in developing countries, and the mitigated outcomes may be transferred to their like a limit to their account. Based on these tools, some of countries globally like Korea or Japan, they created their own mechanism. In Japanese mechanism called Japan crediting mechanism, and how it works. So they are signing some kind of MOUs with developing countries and starting to invest on a mitigation. For example, on retrofit of buildings. So you need the $100 million for retrofit of the multi-apartment buildings. They will come with a 50% grant and 50% of affordable loans to support you to do your projects. But the mitigation outcomes that you will have, 50% will go to the Japanese commitment. The same done by Korean government, by Swiss government, but generally this ITMO under Article 6 will be the main tool through which the companies will start to do projects and to support implementation of the climate agenda. But what we are talking now is about mandatory limitations, because besides mandatory limitation, it's also voluntary market available. Probably you know that Fortune 500, the global companies, they pledged to become a carbon zero. And Apple, Amazon, any other, so the big names that you know. So they need to somehow reach their targets till 2030, till 2040, till 2050. It depends on the company. So they need the carbon. That's why I will, if like visually to show the market, we will say that half of the world will come with the carbon supply and then with the carbon demand. So voluntary, the market is pushing a lot, because I mean, it started to somehow, the impact your bonds. So if you are a proper company with your carbon, the targets, you are doing proper carbon offsetting projects, then it's positively impacting your bonds, and then you are getting your benefits. So it's important to divide the mandatory part and the voluntary part. But again, coming to European Union, we talked about this cap that available in EU. But as I mentioned before, it will not work besides some limitation for the other. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so that's why the CBAM mechanism that I explained, it will somehow try to harmonize the potential negative impact. So when I explain this cement factory in an EU member country, so if they will emit, for example, 10 ton of CO2 per ton of production, but another company outside of EU will emit 50 ton of CO2, then the difference, according to internal prices, should be paid by importers. So it's a very big money. That's why EU is trying through this mechanism, to limit the emission not only internally but outside of EU. But the main mechanism will be the Article 6 through ITMOs, that the countries that may start to work together to make an implementation of the carbon projects in developing countries.
Thank you very much, Excellency. We have more questions for you, but before that, I guess Dr. Mao has joined, and I guess he's joined through his phone. So, sir, we are eagerly waiting for your thoughts. Can you just unmute yourself and?
Now, can you hear now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes.
Finally, yes.
Actually, I'm very sorry. It's very embarrassing. Because I thought the laptop will work, but I can hear you people, I can see you people, but you are not able to hear my voice. That
Yes.
was the thing. Right? Then now, when I tried to check my mobile again, then it says download the apps. Then I have to download, and it was anyway. It's a great honor Okay, then should I go ahead and speak something about today's topic?
Yes, yes, please.
Yes,
So,
yes, sir.
Given your expertise, I request you to focus on India's approach towards carbon neutrality, because we have kept a carbon neutrality target to be achieved by 2070, and we always say that, well, India wants to go for a common but differentiated responsibility, and also according to the respective capabilities. And given in that context, I also request you to focus a little bit on our government's current economic and development policies, whether we are able to integrate the low carbon technology, or like the environmental friendly policies in our economic development. Not please share.
okay, thank you. See, I think without going this formalities, I'll straight away go to the topic. You see, the government of India has taken the real initiative in the world as one of the leader in this carbon neutrality target policies. Because in the COP26, our Prime Minister spearheaded and also shown that India's ambitious shift on the country's climate change policy. And here you can see that so many target or summary he has given about what India plan to do. And in that, I think you all are aware about that. In that he says that the first 5 elements which he has given, that 500 gigawatt non-fossil energy capacity by 2030. That India wants to develop that energy using without of fossil energy. Then again, the second, I am not going to go in detail in that, but again, the 50% of energy from renewable sources by 2030. This is the second point which India has, told to the world that what India is planning to do for the carbon neutrality target. Then again, reduce total carbon emission by 1 billion tons. That also by 2030. That is the target of our country, which is there by various means how to reduce that. Then the other is that 45% reduction in carbon intensity by 2030. In this also, the goal is to reduce carbon dioxide emission by per unit of GDP by 25% relative to 2005, which was level, that was the baseline which was given. Then it aims to decouple economic growth from carbon emission, promoting more efficient and sustainable economic practices. Then the last, the fifth point which the Prime Minister has also given was that net zero emission by 2070. That is what, and to achieve this, what the government has planned out was that the net zero commitment here by 2070, the government has made a lot of national policy. That is for this national policy for this climate change, this mitigation. So here you see that renewable energy expansion. Here in this, the government aims to significantly increase its renewable energy capacity. Key initiatives include like solar energy mission, and so that's why you find that the government of India is now encouraging solar energy this mission. Then wind energy, and then this by solar national solar mission, the government plans to target 280 gigawatt of solar energy capacity by 2030. Then wind energy, again, that is also the target is 140 gigawatt by 2030. Then hydropower, that is both large and small projects to be taken up. Then bioenergy, that is expanding bioenergy and biogas production. Then the other is the National Hydrogen Mission. This was launched in 2021. This mission aims to position India as a global hub for green hydrogen production and utilization. The mission includes targets for production, infrastructure development, and research and development. India aims to produce 5 million metric tons of green hydrogen by 2030. So then again, electric mobility. Now, because of this, the government of India is now promoting of faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid and electric vehicle. This is one of the another scheme which the government of India is promoting for this to achieve our carbon neutrality. Then National Electric Mobility Mission Plan. Here also the government aims to advance electric vehicle technology and infrastructure. This is what the government of India is doing. Then afforestation and reforestation. So in this program, like Green India Mission, so the government of India is trying to do both this afforestation as well as forestation. So both by trying to increase forest or tree cover to extent of 5 million hectares and improve quality of forest or tree cover on another 5 million hectares, or that is on non-forest land. So that these are the type of things which the government of India is trying or doing for to achieve our target of carbon neutrality. Then also in this year, our Prime Minister has started or launched a very ambitious program on June 5th this year, or World Environment Day. Here, he has a very interesting one, Ek Pet Ma Ke Naam, one plant for in the name of your mother, to plant one plant for in the name of your mother. So he encouraged all citizens to plant one tree in the name of your mother. So this was to increase or to plant millions of trees in the across the country. This is one of another plan for that. Then here, National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture, and in this also, Government of India is promoting enhanced productivity in a sustainable manner by promoting practices that optimize resource use and reduce environment impact. Then promote climate resilience. Here, again, they are also promoting this agriculture system to climate change impact, which are good practices, which I mean that trying to promote. Then sustainable resource management. All these things, the government of India is taking all these steps to achieve that carbon neutrality targets, which the government of India has put forward. Then also see climate resilience adaptation. In this, government of India has the National Action Plan on Climate Change, and it has outlined strategies climate adoption for climate adaptation and mitigation. Then then also not only the national level but at state level also, state action plan on climate change. So each state has tailored strategies and to address regional climate impact. So these are the different programs the government of India at both national and this state level they are doing. And also the government of India is promoting carbon pricing and market mechanism. Here, if any industry produce this or emit so much carbon dioxide, then they are giving their tax more. So they are encouraging people not, or the industries not to pollute or not to emit so much of this carbon dioxide emission. So that's why those who has green technology, they are giving less, they are charged less tax. So that is also, it is one thing. So those industries or any company who emit or who has higher emission of carbon dioxide have to pay higher tax. This is one of the carbon pricing. Then also this carbon market development here in this, the government is facilitating this design to facilitate emission trading, provide economic incentive for reducing greenhouse gas, then also help country achieve that to achieve the country that target. That is also is there. Then international cooperation, which the government of India has taken up with the various countries, especially developed countries, for regarding this cooperation, like solar energy, then wind energy, all sort of things. This they are taking up the collaboration with different developed countries to get the technology to achieve that our target. Then also that they have that another one, which you can see that government of India has taken very active role, is that International Solar Alliance. This is one very important task which the government of India is leading in that. Then also, of course, the government of India also is promoting research and innovation on this green technologies, that is renewable energy technology. In this in that, like energy, also not only this renewable energy technology, but an energy storage or the batteries or solid state batteries, flow batteries, and other storage thing also. Then energy efficiency, that research and development in this also they are supporting for developing energy efficiency machineries and equipments. Then sustainable agriculture here, they are promoting this thing for this to have this climate resilience crop management practices. Then waste management, all these things, these policies they have government have taken up in a large scale or in a massive scale. Of course, these are many are doing very well, but many are, of course, they are still in a very crude stage, or where the government of India is trying its best to improve. Of course, I think many things you can see that solar energy, especially solar energy now, the government of India is promoting like anything. Then also wind energy, of course, in many states of India, they are started. Other thing, of course, like electric vehicles, that electric battery vehicle, these things are now the many places people have started using. And also the government of India also promoting this in all these national park, zoos, and others, wherever the conservation areas, they are promoting e-vehicles, e-bicycles, not to pollute or not to create that carbon emission in those areas. Then also now they are trying to promote uses of these e-vehicles in cities and all these things. They are coming up. So that is why there are so many programs that is what, as I say, the government of India is taking up in this aspect. And of course, the challenges is that this energy demand, that is one of the very challenging thing for the government. See, balancing economic growth with energy demand while transitioning to cleaner sources. This is one of the tricky thing and very not very easy. But as the technology for this green technology is still not very highly developed in our country, so these things the government is trying to balance economic growth by taking the necessary initiative, and also by developing better infrastructure to support this renewable energy and electric mobility. Then also, of course, funding and investment. This is one thing which the government of India also try hard to do, that financial resources for climate action and technology development. These are the things the government of India is trying their best. And I think we are seeing many of the things are coming out and many of the areas, I think India is also leading. And that is, I think that is what I would like to say, only because I got mixed up because of this, that started because of the technology that hit up with the sound system. That's why now maybe I think time is also short, so that I know you can just discuss about it. Thank you, sir. You are mute. I can't
Yes,
hear
sir.
you.
I said, yeah. No worries, sir. It was, I mean, you could join late, but it was absolutely wonderful to listen to your thoughts. Now the house is open for questions. First, we'll take 2 questions, and then I'll invite Erik once again because he wants to share something about the electric mobility. So the house is open for questions. We can take 2 questions before I invite Erik. Would you like to ask the question, Indu? You are on mute, Indu.
You mean
Thank you, Abhinav.
Yeah,
Hello,
yes, yeah.
Dr. Mao. Uh, it's a thank you for the efforts that the Indian governments have been doing, and the India's ambitious carbon neutrality plan. And I also have this question to the research that have been doing to the Azim Premji University with the under the leadership of Dr. Santonu. So that like we are more concerned about India's, like we see the India and China's competition in the Indo-Pacific, and looking at India's evolving uh, global power role, and we all have been doing our efforts to play this role India when is a comparison to the China. So in the recently report that is published, I guess it's on September 5th or September 3rd. So there was a plastic pollution. India tops in the plastic pollution ranking, emits 9.3 million tons annually. So, and it was reported like China was the number 1 polluter before that, and now the China is on, I guess, on 3rd position. So, and it was Mr. Santonu also reported showing that the global temperature rise, and of course in India's northeastern part and the Ladakh part. So as we see that India's economy is fast moving, and people are getting more richer. Maybe one class is getting more richer, not the general population. But how we see this challenge, like you are the heading the whole department, and you are very close to the government of India. So that is our concern, like how if we see the India as a superpower or a global power in this, that can uh, that can drive the Southeast Asian, not only the South Asian countries, but the larger Indo-Pacific. So how do you see this unique challenge of the plastic pollution? That is what we are just looking at that. Do we have the specific strategy for that? Because as report said, we are the top. We are at the top for the in the plastic pollution.
you see, the government of India has, or the Ministry of Environment and Forest, also has passed so many resolution. Or this the ban on plastic use. So this has been government of India has a zero plastic policy, but the only problem is, you see, the rules, regulations are framed by the government of India, but the implementation at the regulation and the implementation at the ground level, it is in our country, in a way, it's sad. I mean, very sorry. It is very poor. So until unless a stringent action or fine is imposed on those people, that is it is not affecting the, otherwise the ministry has already passed that has already given instruction to all the department, all the, I mean, they have passed so many acts to prohibit this use of plastic, especially, and then especially in government offices or everywhere. But still, you know, that is going on. And that is, of course, until unless the citizens ourselves have the civic sense and we abide and we have our responsibilities, I think it is the government alone is not possible to implement all these things. Whatever they pass the resolution or they make the act or they say or they do that, but it is the public who has also to cooperate and to do that. So our citizens, we should be also responsible citizen, then only can be possible. And then also, of course, the government of India is trying to do the recycling of these plastics. So they try to set up in many places where they that recycling of these plastics. But then I think that also is in only very few places it is implemented properly. I have not seen many places doing. But if you see that when you say about China, China is you recycling all these plastic use, and they are making so many things. In our country also, sometimes you see in TV and you see in YouTube that some people are using this used plastic and recycling and making into chair, tables, and other things. But then still you'll find the pollution is very high. So that way, I I can't say what the government, of course, the ministry has tried our best, the best, but then that is not 100% success.
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Santonu, would you like to share your thoughts? After that, I'm going to invite Erik because he has to leave. Would you like to share your thoughts on the subject?
Yes. So I think one of the things regarding Dr. Indu's question on say pollution or basically waste and all. I think and again going back to what Dr. Mao's comment on public engagement. I think making things visible to public might help create that sort of a support. Again, on a different level, I'm saying, because what we have been working on something we are calling it climate data democracy. So we have all this data that we work on, but this is again sitting at a scientist level, right? And the main thing is how we take this sort of a data. Again, I'm probably saying it on a peripheral level, but how do we take this data to take it to the ground to do some action? I believe there is a huge gap from what we understand, what we have, and again, government is trying its best to implement policy. And how do you actually build this community consensus or community, how do I say, participation? I think bridging this data gap might help. So again, from a climate action perspective, we are calling it climate data democracy. Something like that might help actually to build that consensus or support.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Goswami. Before we take more questions, I'll invite Erik. Erik, you wanted to mention something about the electric mobility. Can you hear me, Erik?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Around 5 years ago, we initiated some kind of privilege regime for electric mobility in Armenia. In that time, we had only 18 electric cars imported in Armenia, 18. It was the whole electric fleet in Armenia, but we initiated VAT exemptions. And since we are a Eurasian Union member country, we also applied to Eurasian Union and we did the zero custom duties for import of electric cars. So it's made the electric cars 35% cheaper than an average car. I mean, the prices because of this taxes and custom duties. Within only 4 or 5 years, actually, Armenia became a country with higher number of electric mobility in whole region. So now we have 10 times more electric cars per 100,000 inhabitants than in all countries in the region, Turkey, Iran, the Georgia, Azerbaijan, all these countries. Plus, it's initiated a lot of infrastructure. Now the charging stations in Armenia in line with the charging stations per electric car again to Germany and US. So using the environment policy tools, actually, we initiated some kind of additional demand. And now, I mean, you were in Yerevan, so you saw how many electric cars are in a car. It's because of this policy made by government. And just 1-2 words on a plastic. Again, you can do a lot of actions. You may, try to educate the people to use some kind of moral arguments, but you need to have a scheme that the pollution will be somehow punishable, or it should be some penalties for this. For example, deposit refund system for bottles. You know that there is no any country globally that have less than 90% of collection if they have this deposit refund system. This 100 millions of bottles that is thrown in a rivers and the water bodies. Once you have a payment for deposit, that system is automatically working. Of course, it's need a lot of work. We just concluded a feasibility study and drafting of legal act for Armenia, and we are going to implement. Years ago, we banned the plastic bags in Armenia. So all these mechanisms, as Dr. already Mao told that government is taking some actions, some guidelines, but if in the end it will not touch your pocket, it will not bring you in a situation that you need to care, unfortunately it will not work. So that's why it's important when the government also taking into consideration that the private sector, the society, whatever. But once you have a set of some kind of tools, environment management tools, then it will work. But electric mobility, the progress in Armenia, it's a very good example how having only like 10-15 cars within a few years the country become a leader in a region. Because I'm driving an electric cars. I'm an environmentalist, but a lot of people are driving not because they are environmentalists, but it's economically beneficial for them. Importing is cheaper, the consumption is cheaper, maintenance is 80 times cheaper. The only difference was the prices. But when you have this kind of privileges, like it's 35 less taxes and custom duties, it will become an average for the petrol cars. Then the people will just buy, and the process is going. And sorry, because I had another meeting. Just wanted to thank you for inviting me. It's a lot of topics that we can discuss related to climate and the environment. And thank you for all participants here. Whatever you will have any question or something you will need, I'm open. My contacts is there. And yes, I will need to run now. Thank you for the time, and I will leave now.
Thank you very much, Erik. In fact, since you're already running short of time and you have to go, but definitely I'm just sharing an idea. Maybe we can organize some sort of a workshop here where your company can share some of the best practices, or how your government is helping induce these carbon friendly, low carbon technologies and environmental friendly practices, even the legal system, and also as far as implementation is concerned. Because for us the situation is starkly different from Armenia. Why? Because here it's very difficult to enforce things, implement things, which is something Dr. Mao very specifically highlighted in a very detailed manner. But yes, we would like to get enlightened by some of the best practices which your company has developed based on your European experience and also your government experience. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, the day before yesterday, I met with Kirti Vardhan Singh, your state minister of environment and forest. He was here for forum, so we had a chance to discuss with him some kind of potential cooperation. Because, for example, these solar companies in India, they are very, very successful with producing these panels with a very affordable prices. But no one knows you own this. I worked in Sri Lanka for 2 years, so I'm doing projects with them. That's why I know what's going on. I know the Indians' commitments and obligation. You are doing a lot of work actually, but there's no any information during the COPs, during these environmental meetings, what you are doing, what is your commitment. But potential is huge. I mean, not as a developing country, but as a leader. As a leader in a region who can help also the smaller and most more vulnerable countries to become, more resilient. So yeah, we are open to any kind of discussion, especially with this, the better now the stronger the relation between our governments. And yeah, we're always happy to discuss and to explain, because we discuss only about the plastic and climate issues, but there are so many. I mean, Armenia, just the last sentence. Few years ago, we announced that we are going to double forest cover. We did the forest landscape restoration mapping through World Bank. We did everything put in our NDC. We generated a lot of financial resources from global partners, 25 million euros from German funds, 50 million from Green Climate Fund. And now, because the ITMOs that I explained from the voluntary market, there are big companies who are interested to come to do reforestation here, because of their commitments, and also to contribute for the global carbon and climate agenda. This is it. Thank you very much, and hope to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
My next question is for Dr. Mao. Dr. Mao, you touched upon a very crucial issue, that implementation is extremely difficult in India. And so personally, what I feel is that when it comes to environment and forests, I see very less number of scientists are empowered and able to plan and implement policies, but I see a very overwhelmingly large number of bureaucrats, the forest bureaucracy, and a very centralized all India bureaucracy playing a crucial role in this. Well, somehow that makes the entire process very complex and very, I would say, not very environmental friendly. I mean, what's your take on this? I mean, how can we achieve that, something which is lacking in the implementation of the policies?
You see, I'm a government employee. I'm also, I will tell you, our system is such, we're very much theoretical. We don't work on nature-based solution or in the practical aspect. So I'm a government servant, but I'm not supposed to criticize the government policies. But the reality is that our system is so much about this theoretical or this official matter, and in the ground reality, it is not implemented in a proper way. That is one of the biggest issue or the challenge we face in our country. And then, of course, bureaucracy, that is, we can't help, because right now also in our country, this bureaucracy is really, it is not only the top level, but it is, if you see the bureaucracy, it starts from the bottom to the top. And that is why it is, until unless we change the whole system, it is not going to be easy to change our way of functioning. That is why some of the team, as you said, we form many policies, many rules, regulation, but when it comes to implementation becomes very poor. So that is the reason, that is one of the, main thing. And then also, of course, the country is our country is such a big country, and also not only a big country, but the population is one of the biggest challenges. We have so much population, like for a country like Armenia, they are a small country with very less population, and also it is easy to implement also because of that. See, in our country, like my own Ministry on Environment and Forest, it's a very big ministry. There are also so many departments under it. And then most of the time we do not know each other in the ministry or in the working also. But I just happened to attend one this IUCN meeting in Bangkok just last week only. And I tell you, this country, these people, most of these the Asia-Pacific countries, they are, apart from this China or others are small countries, they almost know each other, from the prime minister to the this minister or the official who are working in different department, because their country is such not a very big country like India, so people know almost each other, and that's why it is very easy to work out. But in our country, of course, I don't make a blame, or that is not the excuse. But then because of this vastness of the everything, so that is why really it is a bit challenging for the government to implement any of the things in a proper way. But of course, the government of India is trying its best. You see, that's why, like regarding the plastic waste, for that reason, the government has promoted that in all supermarkets and all this, they are asked to use cloth bag. So that is why they tried not to allow use of plastic bags in the shops. If you go to a supermarket now, most of the shopping malls, you will get cloth bag. That is one of the things. Then also single-use plastic was the government tries to encourage. But you see, many big companies that shopping malls or supermarkets, they may not use. But if you go to a small shop again, they are using all that. So that is the thing, one of the thing. And also, you see, I don't blame, but the regulation, regulatory is very poor. At the ground level, at the grassroots level, or in the this whoever is regulating the law enforcement agencies, they are also very poor, because we are too lenient or we are not strict. We don't see we frame many laws and regulation or policies, but we don't implement it practically. That is the problem with that. In many ways, we are very good in making policies, making documents, framing all these things. But reality is that implementation is really poor.
Thank you very much. I'm in agreement with you in entirety. I must say definitely. I mean, you have brought out some very crucial, lacunas that are ailing our system. Regarding that, the issue which you mentioned that, I mean, in some of these countries like Thailand, Armenia, everyone seems to know everyone. Like, even a small environmentalist would be very comfortable meeting the Prime Minister. Unfortunately, here in our system, it's not just because of the huge population. Definitely, huge population is a factor, but partly and majorly, it is also because of a very arrogant culture that prevails among the bureaucratic cadres. In my city, I can tell you, if a young environmental scholar wants to meet the district collector or the state principal secretary environment share his thoughts on the environment or plastic reduction or anything, I can tell you he will never get an appointment by by these secretaries or even these high officials, because they consider it's below their dignity to meet an ordinary environmental young expert. That's the culture which prevails. So I live in the city called Udaipur, which is a city of lakes, very famous for its forest and environments. But today, if you see, lots of hoteliers, urban development planners have come to the city, and the state bodies, the state institutions like the UIT, the municipal institutions, they have violated environmental laws. They have leased out entire mountains and hill ranges to them. They're building, creating hotels right next to the lakes. They're cutting the mountains, cutting the hills. And that's happening because the government officials are receiving kickbacks in that. And I'm very blunt and I'll be very straightforward to mention that that involves some very senior level IAS officers, the forest policy. That's the state in nexus, definitely in in a complete nexus with the politicians also. But I think I mean, I'm a little straightforward because I'm not the part of the government, so I can be a little. Yes,
No, yeah.
definitely these issues. So any
Yeah,
more
Dr.
questions?
Abhinav, Dr. Abhinav, just I want to take a few minutes that you rightly mentioned what has been going, and I fully agree with Dr. Mao that it's a bizarre that we are going to an international country with our delegates and we don't know each other. That's how the bad situation is. Can we understand this? Like we are just framing new policies, new groups, but we are not able to reach even in our colleagues, and despite this whole system of social media. Now we say that we are connected, we are more than ever we are connected. And also now we know where the lacuna is. Now we understand all this. Where is the policy, where is the implementation, where is the framing, and how the universities are doing with their courses. Like Dr. Santonu said, they are starting the new course there. That is very interesting. That I just looked at the glance of that course. But then again, the problem comes. If just we are going to give them the theoretical knowledge to the students in the first year, they come with their ambitions, their aspirations. Oh, they are going to do in this course. And again, we have that much, you said that political and bureaucratic limitations to reach out to the officers, to reach out to the representatives, that there has been no use of working on this. So let's start something on doing this, like maybe the policy recommendation or the paper kind of thing, so that where we can put some of our concerns, some of our knowledge, and some of our recommendations to send it to the representatives who are the authorities. And yes, we are saying the climate data democracy, but we don't have any representative to talk about this, to go to the population. And we always excuse that we are a huge population. Yeah, we know that there are certain challenges with the population, but we have more representatives, we have more funds, we have more regulators, we have more people to work on this. We can make the volunteers, we can have more groups to work on this. But again, the government, how much government is willing to do all this, to diversify, to give the representation to the each and every level. Like if you are doing the district wise, if you are doing the tehsil level, the block level, at the village level, we have to sustain this the responsibility of each representative. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very
wonderful
much.
discussion.
Thank you very much, Dr. Indu. So with this, we come to the conclusion of our today's amazing and enlightening session. And I must say, definitely, even I personally don't come from the field of environmental and development studies, but I come from the field of security and foreign policy. But yes, I got a chance to learn a lot, and definitely, I'm very lucky. In fact, we are all very lucky to have such brilliant experts with us today. Dr. Mao, Dr. Goswami, Minister Erik, they shared their beautiful insights. I see that someone, Dr. Vartika, asked a question that how can indigenous knowledge be incorporated in the state and national policies to reduce carbon emissions? Now, that's something which is a very intriguing question. And not that we don't have experts. Dr. Vartika herself is an expert on the subject. Dr. Anita Jain, my colleague, she's an expert on this subject. She has worked extensively on taxonomy or indigenous knowledge. But the question arises, are we going to involve these people in the policy planning and implementation? I was going through Dr. Mao's CV. He has worked extensively on the ground in the northeastern forest, written so much. Dr. Goswami's brilliant course, which can be an absolutely enlightening experience for the younger generation of environmental scholars. But once again, the question arises, how can we leverage these intellectual, human, and technological resources to actually implement things? Drafting documentations is perfectly fine. And we have like really smart bureaucrats who can draft excellent documents. They can be presented in international conferences. But what's happening on the ground? That really matters. And for that, we cannot manage that with a top-down approach. Our public servants, unfortunately or fortunately, they are a very quintessential part of policy making and implementation in this country. So they have to get involved, shedding aside their ego, shedding aside their rigidities and bureaucratic protocols. We need to bring in more scientists, environmental policy experts. We need to have environmental think tanks dedicated to research on this subject and proposing policy recommendations at a city level, at a district level, and the state governments need to work in close collaboration with that. With that, I would like to start today's session. Thank you very much. My heartfelt thanks to all the speakers, Dr. Mao, Dr. Goswami, and Minister Erik. Thanks a lot for joining us. We would like to engage you in the future also and get enlightened with your very constructive ideas. And definitely, I look forward to creating something like a paper or a major research report, which can be sent to the government and also can be sent to international platforms also. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Santonu.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Mao.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Bye.